Hello and welcome to another audio analysis. In today's video, delving into the track Awaken by the American hard rock band Breaking Benjamin. This was the first track to be released from the band's upcoming 7th studio album, which we currently don't have a title for or a release date, but potentially could be this year. I'd imagine it certainly will be, because it was 2018 when they released their previous album in the form of Ember, which saw the band taking a much heavier turn in the stylings of their music, whereas we had Dark Before Dawn in 2015 where they had their first album with the reimagined lineup as they brought on a lot of new members to go alongside Benjamin Burnley, and since then they've released some other things such as some reimagined versions of older tracks as well as some collaborations that the band have been working on. For now though, will this track awaken something new in the band or will it simply remain in slumber? Let's take a look at exactly how it sounds. Okay, already with this song, we're seeing a bit of an amalgamation between those two previous albums. Certainly on the sonical side, it's much heavier. We're seeing those heavy elements really incorporated just with that opening riff that we do have. It's very similar to sounds from Ember, where we saw songs such as Tourniquet and some of those heavier elements really coming in, but also mixed with those slightly softer tones of Benjamin Burnley, which we really did see on Dark Before Dawn in 2015 with songs such as Angels Fall. Something that we really do like to start to see in this track is the way he really builds into it, this soft opening, almost lullaby-ish, despite these more aggressive hard rock tones that we do have from Benjamin Burnley, which is also one of the cornerstones of the band's music. He really has that distinctive tone to him, and it gives off that familiar feeling of much of the band's previous work before we do dive into some of those slightly more aggressive and kind of raw tones that really come from him, that really help to establish them as one of the mainstays of hard rock music over recent years. And I love the way they've just got some of these playful elements really coming in, just some of those grooves at the very start from that guitar work, and we have seen the band really evolve since 2015 when we brought in this new lineup to go alongside Benjamin Burnley. They really seem to have evolved sonically over the years, and they're showing more of that just in the early stages of this track. I also love the continued addition of Keith Wallen doing backing vocals. He's done a lot of solo work over this past year or so, releasing an album himself, and I love the way he works into line with Benjamin Burnley just to add some more effects to that kind of vocal power that really comes across. They do kind of even each other out a little bit at times, which is really nice. And also some of the backing elements that I'm getting just in the early stages of this track is really nice to see. I do think on the musical side they're really showing a lot of development since that Ember album, just off this first minute and a half alone. In terms of the lyrical side, we're really retreading familiar ground. We're seeing a lot of links, a lot of vague familiarity with some of those previous albums, especially Dark Before Dawn, The Hope of the Hopeless, Pray Without a Prayer. We do see Benjamin Burnley recently seems to be leaving a lot of vagueness in a lot of these lyrics and does repeat a lot of the same ideas, and we certainly we are seeing that straight away, and he likes to use a lot of the same language, it seems, in a lot of the band's music. However, this is the first song they have released in like 7 years, so maybe they're just going with that familiarity with this first release to kind of get the fans back on board, to kind of show that they're still capable of that slightly older sound. They're not trying to kind of tread into new territory, they're just kind of bringing along that familiar feeling. We open come with that burn. It's really almost linking back to that Ember album. It's almost showing a continuation from that. So far away, I'm dead awoken, and I'm faded out of breath. Life falls to grey, hope of the hopeless, and I pray without a prayer. So straight away off this first verse, it's almost giving off this idea of kind of the loss of life or being near the end of life. But there is, again, this vagueness to it, and we see that as we move through the pre-chorus. Cut my cover down, in the hollow between you find the venom in me. And in a lot of their previous music, they've spoke about kind of Benjamin Billy inspires a lot of it with his mental struggles and things like that. So you can certainly see that, the idea of that venom in you, that kind of darkness that dwells within you. Now you've got to fight through it to actually find the kind of the light. And we see that in the chorus: stay forever in the light, I awaken, I arise, I still hear the call of life, I'm taken by the tide. So there is a real strong vagueness to this track, and I think it allows you to draw from it what you want to. For me, this is actually kind of speaking to the idea of something like Alzheimer's or dementia, the idea of you're living awake but you're slowly being eroded away. Last line, I still hear the call of life, I'm taken by the tide, almost like waves on a rock just eroding it away. And it's something we do see with people, that loss of memory, how they're still alive, they're still kind of living life and in the light, but ultimately there's more and more of them being eroded away over time. So for me, that's what's kind of I'm pulling out of this track. But for some people, it may be the idea of mental health, and how no matter how much you fight, you might get clear of mental struggles, but ultimately those waves keep coming. You've got to consistently fend them off. You've got to build a cover, cut my cover down. So that idea of maybe building a barricade, but ultimately it's coming over the top of it, and so eventually you may get washed back into a more negative space. So it could be that constant push and pull. So just off this first verse and chorus alone, we're really showing that this track has that vagueness, but ultimately you can really draw from it what you want to. Okay, what a powerful track coming in just towards the end, really ramping up that aggression right to 11 with those deeper guitar tones really coming in. And I love the use of a guitar solo as opposed to bringing in a bridge, really showing the musical development and the sonic development of the band. And I really like that they're being given the space. Typically it is a band that we really see Benjamin Billy being the cornerstone of, and I love he's giving that space to the musical ensemble of members who are very, very gifted in a lot of the work that they do. And one thing I really enjoyed about this track actually was a lot of the work from Sean Foist on the drums. I loved some of the little elements he was just throwing into the different parts of the track to really just kind of break it up and just interspersing it with these nice little elements that really just elevated the song to another level. And obviously just again including that guitar solo, some beautiful musical work I think is really, really impressive from the band on this track. And on kind of we can see that throughout the rest of the track that we do see kind of more of that vagueness certainly coming in terms of the lyrical content. It's not really expanding too heavily as we move into the further verses. Life falls to grey, hope of the hopeless, and now only lost remain. Tear my head apart, a broken life has left me born to burn. So we do see these ties consistently to the idea of the head, the mental struggles, things like that. A broken life has left me born to burn. So it could be the idea of being born to kind of a lifestyle or an environment that is ultimately quite bad for you and ultimately burns you apart. And we do see again more of these links to burning, the idea of linking it back to their previous album Ember, but we do still have some really nice elements in the vocal tones and the power that is being delivered by Benjamin Burnley. This really does feel very familiar to a lot of the band's previous music in that area, and it is just a nice way maybe to introduce older fans and newer fans to the sound and the style of the band after them being away for 7 years. And I think it's also a great way for people to really draw from it what they want, whether it's the mental struggles, like for me it kind of links to the idea of maybe dementia and Alzheimer's. It could be near-death experiences, the idea of stay forever in the light, I awaken, I survive, I still hear the call of life. So it could be somebody who's maybe on their deathbed and they hear people calling to them like don't go, don't kind of stay with us sort of thing, and almost kind of coming back to life before being taken into the afterlife, that idea of arising. And I also loved the way that we did have this more almost angelic sounding backing vocal late in the later stages of the track, which really add to the kind of euphonics, the sonics of this actual track. It makes it feel much more euphoric in its nature, kind of makes it more expansive, and I think there's some really cool elements that they're really showing, and I hope to see more of this on the upcoming album in the musical department. But I would like to see perhaps potentially a little bit more in the lyrical side of things, because it does feel very akin to some of the band's previous work. So there we have it, Breaking Benjamin awakening from their slumber and providing us with this latest track. But I'm really curious to see how the rest of the album will fill out, what style it will take, whether we'll continue to see this musical development from the band and which direction they may go in. Also, I would like to know your thoughts about this track in the comments section below. Do you feel like it has that very familiar feeling? Or let me know what kind of message you can draw from this track, if there's any different ideas that you do feel really stand out in the kind of slightly more vaguer lyrics. I would love to see your thoughts in the comments. Also, if you would like to see more content like this, then please do feel free to subscribe, and I will see you in the next audio analysis.